There's something strangely comforting about dangerous women in fiction, not because they're safe, not because they're healthy, but because they represent something people rarely get to feel in real life: control. For years, female characters were expected to be likable, soft enough, moral enough, beautiful without being threatening, broken, but in ways that were convenient for everyone else. Then audiences started falling in love with women who looked directly at the camera and felt absolutely no need to apologize. The villain woman, the goth girl, the femme fatale, the emotionally unavailable queen with blood on her hands and eyeliner sharp enough to kill someone. And honestly, people became obsessed for a reason. A male villain is usually written as power. A female villain is written as contradiction. She's elegant and violent, tender and cruel, cold, but emotionally intense underneath. She may genuinely love someone while still destroying them. And that combination creates tension people can't look away from, because softness becomes more valuable when it exists beside danger. A woman who is only sweet feels predictable. A woman who could ruin your life but gently brushes hair from your face, that becomes mythology. The appeal isn't just attraction, it's emotional gravity. The classic femme fatale existed long before internet culture. Old noir films built entire stories around women who manipulated powerful men through intelligence, mystery, seduction, and emotional control. But modern audiences changed the formula. Now the femme fatale isn't just dangerous to men. She's dangerous to systems, corporations, governments, social expectations, entire worlds. That's why characters like Morgan, Makima, or Lady Dimitrescu exploded online. Not because they were nice, because they radiated dominance without needing permission. They feel above the world around them, untouchable, composed, hungry. And people project onto that constantly. The women in the Fallout universe are rarely written as purely heroic. Even the compassionate ones survive through brutality. Someone like Rose of Sharon Cassidy survives with cynicism and alcohol. Veronica Santangelo hides grief and loneliness behind charm. Desdemona leads a resistance movement while accepting moral compromise as necessary. And then you have characters tied to darker aesthetics entirely. Women shaped by apocalypse, violence, radiation, militarism, cults, or survivalism. In Fallout, femininity becomes sharpened by collapse. That's why the aesthetic works so well online. Combat boots, dark eyeliner, old world glamour, melancholy music, rusted neon, emotional distance. It creates this feeling of, I survived the end of the world and became beautiful because of it. That's incredibly powerful imagery. The goth girl stereotype exploded because it represents emotional depth mixed with aesthetic control. She understands suffering, but she wears it elegantly, and that matters. A lot of people online feel emotionally exhausted, isolated, disconnected, overstimulated, lonely. The Goth feminine archetype turns sadness into identity instead of weakness. That's why people obsess over characters like Raven or Lucy McLean once innocence begins cracking, Revi, Gasai, or Bayonetta. They feel emotionally dangerous in ways that are strangely comforting. Not empty, not sanitized, not pretending that the world is gentle. Perfect female characters are often boring because perfection removes tension. But morally gray women feel unpredictable, and unpredictability creates fascination. A character who makes horrible decisions while still remaining understandable becomes unforgettable. Audiences love watching women who are selfish but vulnerable, manipulative but sincere sometimes, affectionate and destructive at once, emotionally wounded without becoming passive. That complexity feels real, especially online where people are exhausted by performative purity. A morally gray woman gets to be angry, hungry, obsessive, ambitious, jealous, violent, and protective. She gets to exist as a full emotional spectrum instead of a moral lesson. And this is the core of it. Not cruelty alone, not dominance alone. Contrast. The reason these characters become so beloved is because they combine intimacy with threat. The woman holding your face gently while covered in blood. The villain who speaks softly instead of yelling. The monster who only becomes tender towards one person. The cold woman whose affection feels earned. That dynamic hits people extremely hard psychologically because affection from someone dangerous feels valuable, even if it's fictional, especially if it's fictional. Modern horror helped push this archetype even further. Women in horror stopped being just victims. Now they're often the source of fear itself, and audiences love it. Characters like Jennifer Check became cult icons because they fused beauty, hunger, sexuality, violence, and loneliness together. The horror feminine archetype says, you can desire me and fear me simultaneously. And that combination sticks in people's brains permanently. Online culture rewards intensity, and villain women are intensity personified. People make edits of them. They write essays about them, romanticize them, project onto them, use them as comfort characters, and use them as aspirational identities. Not because people secretly want evil, but because these characters represent emotional freedom. Freedom from being agreeable, freedom from needing approval, freedom from being emotionally digestible. They say things most people suppress, and they do it beautifully. That's the fantasy, not just power, but power wrapped in elegance, sadness, intimacy, and danger all at once.